Good morning, everybody. This is Jean here from Truelove Quilts for You. I'm going to be real quick because my tutorial to follow is a little bit long again, but I've really wanted to show you our block party. Quickly, block number 9. All right, what do you think? It looks like it's curved piecing with a piece in here. This is my go-to block. I say it in my tutorial, and I want you to reference, if you want to write down right now, grab a piece of paper if you want to take the time. I have 5 different episodes where I actually am working with this block, all sorts of configurations of this block. This block is what put me on the map on YouTube. I have about 120,000 views on episode 6. It's only a 20-minute video about a year ago of me actually making this block. This is going to be about a 50-minute video of me really showing a beginner what to do, where to put your pin. So having said that, it's the easiest block you're ever going to make. Towards the end of the video, at the end of the video, I have actually made this quilt a dozen times, and I've actually attached at the end of my tutorial photographs of all of the different configurations that this block will open up a new world to you once you perfect it. 3 seams and a bit of top stitching. You won't believe how easy this block is. My tutorial goes into depth so that you'll be so comfortable. But if you want to write down the episodes where I'm making this block, I'm quilting this quilt, I'm adapting this block, episode 6, episode 11, episode 42, and then episode 55 and 60 shows you how I adapt this to jelly rolls, to charm squares, to 10-inch squares, to fabric, to all sorts of different ways. So at the end of this video, at the end of my tutorial, you're going to see quilts that I have made using this block. So Block Party 2018, this is block number 9. Excuse me. Almost halfway done. I'm going to get right into my tutorial right now. I hope you love it. I used directional fabric, striped fabric, and I show you how I did that because I wasn't quite sure. But I'm thrilled with the way it turned out, and I do hope you love it. So block number 9 of our block party, using 6 different fabric pieces in your to pull. You can either do it random, or you can, be a little bit more specific. I'm concentrating more on fabric selection, as I say in my tutorial. So by all means, look up these tutorials on my other episodes to show you how I quilt it, how I change it up, how I put sashing on it. I do all sorts of different things. And then at the very end of the video, you'll see all these different quilts that I've made using this block. Open up a whole new world for you. So that's it, block number 9. I hope you love it, folks. Okay, bye. I wanted to show you, before I start picking fabrics, which I've already done, but my thought process in picking my fabrics, I've actually made this block. I've made this block a million times, as I was explaining in my introduction. It's sort of my go-to block. I love it really a lot. I think the fabric selection, and we've talked about measuring, we've talked about cutting, we've talked about piecing, but in this case, I think the fabric selection, you just have to think a little bit, because it has 6 pieces of fabric that are, all of them play a part in this block. And I just want to show you, I actually made this block here. Is it in the frame? Yeah, I made this block here as a trial, because I didn't know, I wasn't quite sure what sizes to cut my pieces from. And as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of fabric in this lovely little block here that I've made, that you've already seen. The reason I say about fabric selection is, well, you can see, this is a bold block that your eye travels around, such a pretty block. It looks like you've curved stitching. You've not, and I'm going to show you how to do that. This is a very simple block, my 10-minute 3-seamed, very awesome quilt block. But I'm going to again explain it to you in depth for you beginners, because it's such a fun block to make. Now here's my sort of prototype of the actual size. I did make, let me just grab here this. I did make this a bit larger. I cut these a little bit larger because I was trying to figure out how do I get to a 12.5-inch block. And at the end of the day, after I made the block, it was just slightly bigger, and I cut it down. And of course, when you're using your 12.5-inch block, square ruler, you come up with a 12.5-inch perfect block. Because again, we're cutting this down like we did last week's applique. We're cutting the background down to get your perfect size block. So you don't have to worry about your block not being 12.5 inches this week again because of this construction. But this is my little prototype. Now, I've been, Jen and I were saying, we have striped fabric. We want to use striped fabric. Well, I'm like, I'm really scared. I don't want to use striped fabric. I'm like going to mess up. But actually, so I started pulling, as you know, these are my fabrics that my fabric line that I pull from. Actually, I'm going to change this one up. I really like that one. Anyway, I came up with, I'm going to use two stripe and 2 floral that coordinate. Now that, that would be this one and this one, this one and this one, this one and this one. I think I can manage it. Now, by all means, if you just want to use your random pieces, I'm going to try to do mine in the stripe. And I don't know if it'll work out or not. Of course it will work out, but I don't know how my stripes are going to go. That's what Jen and I were saying. Oh, how do you get your stripes to go that way? They may or may not. Now, so here, if you can see, we have this is our configuration of our block, right? These are our 4 pieces here, as you're looking. And then I want my frame, this part here, my little frame, which bear with me because it's you use the same size fabric. You use the same size fabric as these pieces to make that. Bear with me, you'll understand. So I'm going to take my frame, and I thought I want to make that pop. I want to make my frame pop. So I'm going to use the black. And then this piece in here is a small 4-inch piece in here. And I thought, well, then I want to add some relief. I just want to have this little black frame. I'm going to add this bit of white. So just my black frame goes around my white. So basically that will be what my quilt block looks like. And again, you can see that your fabric selection is a little bit important in this block, or not, or you can just do it scrappy and grab what you want. Now I've gotten that down. I'll put these over here, and what we do is a couple weeks ago I just said, you know, we don't have to worry about I don't show you the cutting, and I'm going to do that this week. I'm actually going to go over to my ironing board, and we've done this enough now, and right now I'm going to iron these, right, as I do. I'm going to get all the wrinkles out, and from, not this one, from these 5 pieces of fabric, I am going to cut 7-inch squares. Okay, I'm going to come to where's my other ruler? Here we go. I'm going to get my ruler, and I'm going to find my 7-inch square. And I'm going to cut, again, on my prototype, my example, I cut 7-inch squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to save time, you know how to cut now, you know how to, however you're comfortable in your cutting situation, you're going to, out of your 5 pieces, cut 7-inch squares. And then I'll be back. So I have my layout like I want. Now, if by all means, if you're pulling random, you can just grab your 4 pieces and your bridging piece. We're going to call this frame our bridging piece. Remember, this is the curved piece in the middle. But I'm trying to achieve, this is in front of me this way, I'm trying to achieve my finished block looking like this pattern. So what I do, hopefully this will work, because I want my stripes, as you can see, this stripe's going this way, this stripe's going that way. That's the important thing. It may or may not work. I take my piece and I fold it in half. I don't iron it, I don't finger press it. I take my frame bridging piece and I fold it in half, and I put that down here on the bottom, what is this? The left-hand side, with the folded here and the raw edges up there. I then take this top piece and I bring it over to here, okay? And what I'm going to do is on this side, on the right-hand side of this block, with that bridging piece sandwiched in between, I'm going to pin, and I'm going to go over to my machine, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch right down that seam. I'm going to do that now, and then I will be back, leaving this just like that. So I've stitched this down here 1/4 of an inch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, and we're not going to iron yet. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull this thing up. This is a funky block. You're not going to iron anything. How about that? Step away from the iron right now. We're just going to have this configuration here, and you're like, what? But just bear with me. Now what you're going to do is, with this bridging piece here and these 2 pieces that way, you're going to take this bottom right piece and put it over on top of the bridging piece, the frame. You're going to do that. And then you're going to turn this one over, and you're going to put that underneath, and we're just going to sandwich again on this right hand side. We're going to sandwich the pretty side bridging piece with the fold to this top pretty side. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to pin this 1/4 of an inch. Okay? So you've taken your top piece and put it down, pretty side, sandwich, and put that bottom right piece. And I'm going to go over on this side here. We're enclosing that bridging piece right down there. I'm going to sew that 1/4 of an inch. So I've sewn this seam here. Now, any one of you who have actually seen this block construction, I'm sure many of you have, if you've looked at my previous videos of a year ago, will know that this is a block that takes 3 seams. You go over to your machine, 3 seams to construct the block, and then a little bit of top stitching to get the frame in the middle. 3 seams, that's it. So we have what? We have 1 seam down here. This is our 2nd seam here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to pull this out like that, and then you're going to push this over, and we end up with this funky thing here. We've not ironed anything. Don't iron anything yet. We end up with this configuration. Now, what we're going to do, and even I use pins for this one, it's a little bit fiddly, so just watch carefully what you're going to do. This is our 3rd seam. 3 seams. 1 seam, 2 seams. We're going to now sew the 3rd seam. You're going to pick this bit up here, this right-hand side, and you're going to pick up the left-hand side. And because you've cut them perfect 7-inch squares, they're going to just, this block is going to come together perfect. You're just going to put that together, pick it up, okay? And did you get that? So you're going to bring pretty side to pretty side. We're stitching this top seam. But you're like, what do I do with this? Pick this side up, and then just bring these, this is the top seam, this is the seam we're stitching. Bring that like that, okay? Now you're like, well, what in the world, what is all this thing? Now what you're going to do, keeping in mind we're stitching this top seam, you're going to, remember how we pinch and nest. We haven't sewn anything, but what you want to do is you want to have your seams sort of one way and then the bottom seam going the other way, but you have this big bridging piece, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to open that up. You're going to open up that little pocket of fabric. Hope you can see that. You're going to be opening up this little pocket, this little bridging piece. And very carefully, because it's a little bit fiddly, you're going to be pinching one seam to the side, and there's a seam there. You can just match it with that seam, the center seam. And you're going to put a pin right in there. Now, just working with one side, pull the bridging piece out, just working with one side. I found it keeps the bridging piece nice and smooth when you just work with one side at a time. Now this is going to be a bit fiddly because there's like all these funky folds in here, right? There's all these folds in there. But what you want to do is you just want to, with your finger, pull out as much as you can very carefully. Don't tug it, don't, just smooth it out so you have the right side of bridging piece, and then you have the top side of the bridging piece, and then you're going to fold this along here, and you're going to pin, being careful not to catch that pocket. You won't. You're going to pin, because you've sewn them cut them exactly the same size. You're going to sew 1/4 inch. Now, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to show you how I finish sewing this so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm over at my machine and I wanted just to show you in depth what I just did. Remember, I pulled out this bridging piece, okay, and I just pinned it at the center, because I find don't worry about this bit here. What you've done is you've smoothed that bit inside there. You've sandwiched this bridging piece with the raw edges between these two pieces of fabric, and then you're just going to come over and with 1/4 inch you're going to stitch, and this you do need your pins. And you will be catching, not the pocket because you've pinned it very carefully, you're going to be catching that bridging piece, which forms our frame. Now I'm coming to the center point, and again, you'll find like, oh, I have all this folded stuff here. Don't worry about that for now. Just stitch a couple stitches along that, you know, in front of the center point where you've pinned. You've matched those seams. Now everything is secure. Your needle is down. You can lift your presser foot up. Lift this up. Now, with your fingers, you can just gently, don't tug, don't be tugging, just gently smooth, and hopefully my hands aren't in the way. I'm sure they are. Smooth this bit here, right? Just smooth. Get your finger in there and just tug that just gently so you don't catch any of this stuff. So you're just tugging gently. Your fabric will move up here, but don't worry about that. So you see how nice my bridging piece is. It's nice and smooth. I've taken it to its tightest without tugging it. And I'm putting the pretty side to the, enclosing this raw seam here. Just put that down there so it nice matches up, and then bring my piece down, and then with a pin on that area right there, I pin it. And then you can see how nice it matches up at the end. So now this is pinned. I put my presser foot down, and I know my bridging piece is enclosed. I just come along and I stitch it 1/4 of an inch. Oh, I just stitched over a pin. You didn't see that. So now, look at that. My edges are lovely. They're matching. And I just stitch right off. Now, take that pin out. This is so cool. I love this so much. I love this. Let me just see. Let me get it over here. Yeah. So, we've sewn our 3rd seam. Like, oh my word, right? Sewn our 3rd seam. Now, when you open this up, ta-da! Look what you get. You get this lovely, what's called on point, perfect points. You get this lovely piece of center block there. Now, we've not ironed anything, right? And look, my configuration. Oh yeah, look. My stripes are going the same way. Oh, it did work, yeah. So, if you have a directional fabric, that's the way to do it. I'm so thrilled. So, anyway, but if you're by all means pulling random, it's going to be super easy. But I just did it with my directional fabric. I wanted to use my stripe. Oh, I'm so thrilled. So, now, what I want to do is I want to take this over to the ironing board and iron something, but I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to iron. Now, it's awesome. When you're like, oh my word, you could just finish the block. Like, that's awesome, right? But I don't like the way, because it's the way it's constructed. If you turn it over, you have this bunch of stuff here, this nest of seams. Now I can get rid of that, and I'm going to show you how. What you want to do is you're going to pinch the seam with your finger, and then not pinching this bit, you're going to pull this piece of fabric out, okay? You're going to pull that out. What you're going to do, making sure you haven't gotten that pinched in, what you're going to do is you're going to take a pair of little scissors, or big scissors, or I don't know, medium scissors, and on that seam we're going to cut out maybe a 1/4's worth, just a small hole, being careful not to cut that center block. You've pulled that away. You got that? You've pulled that away. You turn it over. Oh, my thread just unthreaded. And you're going to cut this little hole. Okay? Now, you're going to think, what's that hole for? Don't worry. We're going to finish that up. You're going to have a perfectly beautiful flattened block. But right now, I'm going to go over to the ironing board, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do there. So here I am over at my ironing board, and we've not ironed anything. Now, what I want you to do, and we have this, remember we've cut out the hole. Now, putting it on the right side, but feeling where the seams are wanting to go. Remember I told you sometimes your fabric tells you where your seams want to go? Well, this one's going this way, this one's going this way, that one. What I want you to do is on these 4 seams, do not touch this right here, right now. On the 4 seams, just gently, squaring it up, just gently press, iron these 4 seams. Just go around that, your center square diamond, and press your seams nicely. There's a reason I'm doing this. So I'm just going around and pressing those seams, not touching the edges of this one. You haven't ironed this piece at all. Now, I'm going to go over and I'll show you our 6th piece of fabric. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 pieces of fabric. I'm going to now go over and I'm going to cut this piece of fabric, and I'll show you how I do that. Now, in the beginning, I was showing you that in my center frame, I wanted to use this floral, right? Well, I opened up my fat quarter piece here, which I've not touched, and I realized it has these beautiful, like almost a medallion floral. And I was thinking I could actually fussy cut the center piece and cut out my 4-inch picture frame as a picture around my frame, but I thought it's going to be too much. It's just going to be too much of floral. I don't need to waste this bit. And so what I've decided to do is I'm just going to use my, as you've seen on my tons of my other blocks, I'm just going to use my white block, my white background fabric for my picture that goes in my frame. So here is our block, beautifully pressed. Now we're going to be cutting the piece. Let me show you on my block here. Where the heck is it? Oh, here it is. This is the piece now that we're going to be cutting, our inside piece. Now, I cut this white on white, remember? But it's interesting that I wanted to cut my white piece for this one. Now, this is how I'm going to do it, because I got my white fabric out, but then I realized that, oh man, I'm going to have white on black. So I thought, well, I'm going to do a rethink about this. And it may be unconventional, but I'm unconventional. If you have a lighter fabric on a dark, probably you won't. Your black fabric or your dark fabric will show through. And it won't look all that crisp. Now this was gray, this is white on the pale gray, and it actually turned out really quite nice. But I think my white on my black will dull down and look a little bit, oh, is there black under there? And I don't want that. I only want my black frame to show. So again, bit unconventional. What I'm going to do is, I want to show you. It may vary slightly for all of you. Why I say don't cut your fabric yet is I want you to measure, is this in the frame? Yeah. I want you to measure about 1/4 of an inch, just leaving that nice and flat like that, about 1/4 of an inch on each side. Leave about 1/4 of an inch. And that ends up, actually it ends up 4 inches. We don't want it this size. We don't want it the size of the square. We want it about 1/4 inch smaller than the entire square here. So mine ends up a 4-inch square. So what I've done is realizing that my black is going to show through. I've done this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double it. I'm just going to double my fabric. I'm fine with that. I can work with that. Square it up here. I'm going to use 2 pieces of fabric on top of my black. Now, by all means, you don't have to do that. But like, I'm going to treat 2 pieces as one, and you'll see what I'm doing. So there's my 4-inch. This is my 4-inch here. This is my 4-inch here. Yours may be slightly different. Yours may be slightly bigger, slightly smaller, but basically, it's a 4-inch square. Now, as I say, I'm treating this as one piece of fabric, okay? That's just me, so it doesn't show through. So there is my one piece of fabric, per se, on top of my black. Now, I know that that black's not going to show through. Now, let me just get my... Oh, my... So what we're going to do, so my 4-inch square on top of there, you can see, is about 1/4 inch all the way around. Now, I'm going to take this over to my ironing board. Actually, I don't pin it. You may want to pin it, but I don't. I will show you what I do, and I don't think you'll have to pin it. I really don't. So I'm going to go back to my sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how we're going to finish this frame, this curved frame on our block. And then our block is almost done. So just go over to my machine. So I'm at my machine, and hopefully because my hands, I have to hold this. What you're going to do is we're going to now create that curved frame, okay? We're going to create this curved frame. Now it's very important that what we're just going to do is we're going to be top stitching. Top stitching is a stitch that you will see. You will see that. At the end of the day, this is top stitched here. Around here. What we're going to do is how we cut this edge, these 4 edges of this square, miraculously made with the 3 seams, is on the bias, which means it's the stretchy part of the fabric. So what it does, it curves, it curls, and it stretches and curves. Look. So beautifully. Now don't tug it. Tucking this raw edge, just hold that there, and tucking it, you can see how it gets tucked in. You may want to, okay, you may want to pin it. Yeah, let me just do that. You may want to pin it to hold that raw edge in there. But what we're going to do, and as you see, I'm treating this as 1. My center square is 1. So you're going to put your needle down here, and you're going to stay the right side. This part in here, the inside of your rolled edge, tucking that in, that rolled edge, not pulling it, just gently smoothing that. Now we're going to start stitching right along that edge there to create that curve. It's no fancy stitch. Go slow. It's just a straight stitch. I'll do it slow. And you're creating a curve. Now, about half an inch from this point here, from the needle to here, you're wanting to stitch sort of almost, not off of it, but you're going to stitch inside here. The reason we're going to stitch to the right of the needle, as it were, not off of it, you're wanting to close that, is because we're going to be allowing this next curve to curve over and to make a nice point. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just turning it just so the needle is right there, needle down. I'm going to lift my presser foot. I'm going to turn this around. And then, straightening up my piece, then I'm going to roll that. See how that rolls? See how that rolls right over? You've enclosed the raw edges of your center piece, of your picture frame. This is your frame, this is your picture. You've enclosed that, and that piece right there rolls over so nice and without pulling it, makes a lovely point. And this time you're sewing right along the left-hand side, along here, and doing the exact same thing. Top stitch it. Don't force anything, just let that bias edge roll right over. You don't want to stress these seams, you just want to let it go where it wants to. And again, about a half an inch from the point, you're wanting to straighten up and then just go catching it, but going right to that point over on this side and finishing at the point, putting your presser foot up. Then you're going to be rolling that. See how beautifully it rolls and encloses. That's the point. There's my point. Put my presser foot down and start keeping your needle down. And then just on the left-hand side, where you see how nicely that's made? You're going to top stitch. Now this is an exercise in your top stitching, getting it right. You want to tuck that little raw edge in. Again, not stressing your fabric, just letting it go where it wants to. And again, about half an inch, straighten up, and just sew down to the point. Needle down, press the foot up, smoothing, and then roll that lot right over. Look at that lovely point you've made. Just letting that biased curve do its thing. Press the foot down, making that curve. Just go slow. Your stitches are going to show, and you're like, oh no. And what I do is, as I come along, I get rid of the end one. And then that point, as you can see, has rolled right over because we've sewn that to the point, and then I just do 1 or 2 back stitches, and then needle up, and then look at that. Look at that. Right? Perfect. Beautiful. But let me just where are they? Let me just get my scissors. Sorry. But remember, so we have a beautiful, almost finished block, couple more steps, and we're perfectly finished block. So now there's our block, beautiful frame. Isn't that amazing how that 7-inch piece just makes this little frame, right? But because it's a big piece, remember what we did is we cut this hole. So you're thinking, well, what did we cut the hole for? Now that we've stitched that stitching down our frame, what you can do is you can put your pair of nice sharp scissors right in that hole, being careful. You're not going to cut your black fabric. You're just cutting this square of seams out, being careful not to cut your fabric. Now I do have 3 pieces of fabric. I have my 2 white and this black. That I'm fine with that in the center, but I don't want like 20 million pieces, right? So I go up to the seam very carefully with this part of the scissor, just rolling that along, and I go up as much as I can to get rid of this lump, this nasty lump of seams. And the reason, right up to the top, there's another one, being careful not to cut that inside one. Just get rid of that, as many of those seams. And again, you're trimming it away about 1/4 of an inch. And so there you have a block that doesn't have a big lump in the middle. Now you can go over to your iron, and now you can iron it. Now, because it's just, there's no lumpy mess. The seams are in here. It's just lovely. Now, there is one more alternative. If you would like to do, you can come back, and because you're saying, well, what are these flaps here? It's all flappy here, Jean. These things are sticking up. I like that. But what if you would want to, doing exactly the same, you can stitch that down. You can stitch that down. So it's completely flat. I quite like the little bit of relief there. I quite like the little bit of dimension on this block. So now what I'm going to do is so I don't stitch it down, but by all means go back from point all the way around the curve to point, needle down, and enclose that. So then you will see 2 rows of stitching. I'm fine with the way it is. I like my block. It looks like we've done incredible curve stitching and putting a piece in the middle, and people are going to go, what? And look at it, it's 3 seams. It's 3 seams and some top stitching. Unbelievable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and I'm going to iron my block really, really lovely, and I'll be back. As you can see, I have pressed my block really flat, and I'm just so pleased with it. As you know, this is 3 pieces of fabric. It's fine. It's fine. And I see bright white. I don't see the black. So if you have a darker fabric, you might want to consider that. And you saw, I only used 1 or 2 pins to secure it, and the rest of the time just very carefully. And again, if you wanted to top stitch the outside edge, you can, by all means. Now, it's lovely and flat. What I'm going to be doing is, because I made these a bit bigger, the 7 inches, I'm just going to take my 12.5-inch ruler, look at this, and cut my pieces, my block to a perfect 12.5-inch square. Now, I was looking at this ruler, And you know me and math. I don't know if, like, since it's 12 and a half, I thought like, oh, do we put the 6-inch or like the 6 1/4 inch? And I don't know, to get to the center, I want this block exactly the same. So I don't know. I don't have a clue how to do that. All I do know, this is a center line here. That's pretty, or is it? See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I messed up last week's applique trying to use a ruler, because I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to take this ruler here, and I'm just going to, maybe I can do it here, but I don't know. I'm going to go from this point here, from that point, from my point to the end of the ruler, the end of this ruler is 3 inches. So then I come over here, and from my point, I'm looking at my point of my frame, from that point to the end of the ruler is 3 inches. Wow, look at that. So then I go from this point is 3 inches, and then from that point is 3 1/4. So just go up slightly. 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. Now, I know I'm more like using my ruler as a template. I'm not looking at all the measurements. You know me. But I can see that it's really, everything is centered. What my point is, I want to get that point right in the center. So this is about right. I'm cutting off almost the exact same piece, you know, the exact same pieces on each side of my block. So I'm just going to, I've done that side and that side. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to come back, turn it. And there I have a perfect 12 1/2 inch square. And isn't it pretty? I love my block. I'm like, I just love this block. I just think it's super with this middle frame. There's no lump. Now, do you understand why we didn't iron it? Because if we had ironed it, those, sometimes if you iron stuff, the seams would have created a lump here. It would have created a nasty creased lump in the middle. And by taking that out, look how lovely that is. We've taken all that rubbish out in the back, left it the 1/4 inch just around our top stitching, and again, let the seams on this quilt tell you where they want to be ironed. And then your block will be flat. You have a lot of interest. And I'm thrilled because my stripes, I've been able to utilize my stripes with a little bit of thought. So if by all means you're using a directional fabric, keep in mind that configuration when you lay it out and how you actually construct it. But if you're pulling random, it's the easiest block. It'll take you 10 minutes. Literally, this takes 10 minutes to make. It is so easy. 3 seams. 1, 2, 3 seams. And then if you didn't want to, you didn't have to put that in the middle. You could have just kept that square and just stitched it down. Done. And had like a black square in the middle. A square. You wouldn't even had to have done this curve. But I like that curve because it's like, oh my word, curved piecing. So anyway, there's my block. This is block number 9. Oh my word, we're nearly halfway done. Do you believe it? So there's my block number 9. I hope you love it. I'm thrilled. I'm really pleased. 12 1/2 inches. Look at that. Couldn't have made that any better because I made it bigger. So 7-inch pieces and approximately, probably exactly a 4-inch piece if you've done it exactly. And then that's it. 5 7-inch blocks and a 4-inch block to make this beautiful, beautiful block for our block party. So, okay, folks, thanks. Okay, folks, thanks so much. I just am thrilled. I really am. Oh, look. I just want to show you. So now, okay, now I've made this out of this fabric. But look, this block, I have made this quilt a million times. Just like in this configuration. And look, I mean, like, unreal. Make 3 of these and make a beautiful table runner. Like, so interesting. You can make it in different holiday fabrics. Just so fascinating. You make 6 blocks, which will take you an hour, if that. The thing is, you can make this block here in whatever size. You can just have 5 of the exact same size pieces. So you could do this in 10-inch squares. So I have, I got this from Tuesday morning. I got this, I got these 10-inch squares. So you could do, I've done that. I've referenced in my introduction, which I haven't done yet, but I will reference my different videos where I've made this block in all different sizes. So you could use 10-inch squares. That would make up a 20-inch block if you use 10-inch squares, right? Because this would have been, it's ended up 12.5, but it would have been almost 14 inches. Well, 13.5 inches, because what I cut off. Remember what I cut off here? So this will be about a 20, if I use 5 10-inch squares, it would end up like a 20-inch block. Massive. It's beautiful and it works up gorgeous. But again, this just might be your quilt block. It has been mine for the last year or so. I just love it. You can mess around and I just love it. Okay, enough waffling, Jean. Okay, thank you so much, folks. See you later. Bye.